This is an AI-free podcast. Everything you read, see, and hear was created by a human. If I have a child, that means I'm going to have to give up some other part of myself. That's not true. You're just going to have to fucking manage a lot of different things.
But this one feels like spicy hot for me.
Why is that?
Because sometimes we come into these episodes and I kind of already know how I feel.
Okay.
And so...
And now you're confused?
This is just a real place where I actually don't know. And things you say probably will matter.
You mean nothing else I've said has mattered to you?
Many things you say matter.
Are you coming? This is something that you don't have a definitive thought on, or?
I'm 28.
Okay.
I have a reproductive system in my body.
Yes, you do.
I have a decision to make at some point, probably in the next 10 years, whether or not I want to make use of that.
Sort of very cold way to put that.
This has been a really weird, I guess year, 6 months for me.
Yeah.
When the book stuff happened, when I kind of, out of necessity, made this career change, and now my top priority is just, taking as much life as I can in my hands, the life that I actually want to live, being creative and making art. And my book, I was passionate about that all summer. And the next book I want to write, I'm already excited about that. And I want to continue to jump from project to project. And it feels less stable, but more exciting. It feels like I'm getting further and further away from a place where I could reasonably put things down and pop out a kid.
Well, first of all, let's back the train up here. I get why you're doing it. I don't like the terms popping out a kid, using my reproductive system, things like that. They're very much sort of depersonalizing to a certain degree what you're doing, which is bringing a human into the world that you'll now be responsible for. What you're talking about and what I'm hearing is that you are faced with this notion about making a lifelong commitment to someone that you don't even know at this point, which is, the child that you would have. And you're also making a commitment in some ways to whoever might be the partner that is going to do that with you. And then you're bookending it with the need to be creative. And you're wondering, are the two things mutually exclusive? And I'm proof that they aren't.
You had 2 kids.
I had 2 kids. You come to those crossroads and you start worrying about things that haven't happened.
Well, I'm worried about the things that may never happen. You
need to examine the motivation. So that's why I say I don't like the term popping out a kid or using your reproductive system or whatever thing you're going to say to depersonalize it. Do you want to have a family? Funny enough, I was going to say, do you want to be a parent? You are a parent. Do you want to be a mother? Beyond the notion of I guess I should do this if I'm going to do it, I should do it within the next 10 years. You're not 100% wrong on that. I know you as someone who is capable of being a very loving person. Those are the people that ought to have kids. I think people who have kids because they think it's an obligation and something they need to do are the ones that end up fucking their kids up the most. I didn't think I wanted to be a dad. When I got married, even before I got married, I never had that picture in my head. Matter of fact, I had maybe not the best example of parenting in my life, personally. I've now come to grips with that, and it was interesting that both of my parents were much better grandparents than they were parents to me. So, but they did their best, but they did it because that's what you do. And 65 years ago, that's what people did. You get married, you have kids. You ready or not, telling people that you don't want to do it, then they're thinking, what's wrong with you? But now a lot of people make that choice and say, I don't want to have kids. It's not right for me. So when I got married, I didn't really have any interest in being a parent, having a kid, being a dad. But I married someone for whom that was important, and I chose to go down that road because that was important to them. And if I'd have said, I don't want kids, that would have ended that relationship. And that relationship was important to me and still is. I mean, now I can't imagine my life without that.
That seems to be the consensus, is that everybody who has kids is like...
But not everybody does. And I think some people just need to follow through on their instinct. If two people get together and they say, I don't want kids, then they shouldn't have kids. Right? If both people are of that ilk, that thought. It's like, if you don't have kids because you feel obligated to do it, because somebody told you that that's what you need to do, or because you think it's going to make your life better, it's the wrong reason to do it. It's sort of indescribable until you go through it. But a lot of people are miserable when they have kids.
Right.
And a lot of people feel like you do, which is this going to be the end of my creative life? So I'm a perfect example that no, it's not. You can do all those things. You can, and it can make you better at what you're doing. That you shouldn't fear that part of it. You might have to slow some stuff down, but you're not in a sprint, even though right now it must feel that way because you're young and you just did a book and now you're doing a podcast and you're doing this and you're doing that. But it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. You're going to keep growing as a human being until you die. The whole thing that you want to do is assemble a body of work so that you can look on it, grow from that, and make that its own thing. That's kind of a child of it in its own.
Right.
If you are a creative person and you're going to be a creator, that in and of itself can create inspiration for you in things that you're going to do. Right? And maybe you not even consider it. You don't even know.
I don't even know.
You don't even know, and nobody knows anything. Like the ceiling could collapse and kill us both right now.
No,
Anything can happen. Anything at any moment can be a life-changing incident.
Right.
You just have to be able to focus. If you want to write or whatever it is that you want to do, the most important thing is going to be having someone in your life that supports that, because you're going to need that time. And then you have to in turn support them and what if they're going to do, because maybe they have their own goals. You need to build that, right? You should just be working towards that thing that will ultimately create joy for you. I was scared shitless when I found out I was going to be a dad. And I mean, I was there for the entire, I put the order in. I was there to accept delivery. So I had time to adjust, I think. But I mean, the day my first son was born, I was fucking scared. So I'm going to blow this. What have I done? And I got over it. Point is it didn't stop me from being a writer. It didn't stop me. I found the time. I made the time. I did all the stuff. I met all my obligations. And I also wrote. And I published comics. And then I made that my career. And that's important, that you have someone who supports that.
What does that support look like?
What's it look like?
Yeah.
It looks like someone who's bought in to you as an individual and is willing to accept what your wants are and needs are, and you doing the same. It's reciprocal. I never did like that whole idea of relationships being 50-50, because what they are is 100-100. Mm-hmm. You have to put all of yourself into it. All of it. All of you. Without the expectation of something coming back. When you're talking about a 50-50 relationship, you're waiting for some part of that to come back to you. You can't. You got to go 100%. I'm all in. And then that other person also needs to be all in. And if they're not, then you need to be able to recognize it's like that person is not all in. I found someone, I was fortunate, who was all in on me as an individual and willing to accept the things I wanted for myself. And then I was the same way with her, with my wife. I accepted the things that were important to her, which is having a family, being a dad. So I did that because I loved my wife and I wanted to be with her. It manifests itself into where we're sitting right now. Because at any point, maybe a normal spouse might have said, yeah, I think this comic book thing's not working out. Never felt like that was the case. Mm-hmm. Never had that like holding over my head. So I was able to be a dad, be a creative person in a field that the success stories in comics are a lot fewer and far between than they are in any other. You better off writing cookbooks. But yeah, I mean, that's you got to figure out what's important. I feel good about you because I think that you are a very hard worker from what I've seen. You think on your feet, which is, that's again, your last name is Parent. So maybe you're hardwired for that. But you think on your feet. You came in here to sell a book. You didn't even know what a good wholesale price, and you just came upon it right in front of me. Maybe you lied about that. I don't know. I don't think you did. But at any rate, you have ability. And now you're just going to use that ability to do all of those things. There's no reason you can't have all of it. You can have all of it. It's just going to look different. If you say to yourself, I want to be a mom. I want to be accountable and responsible for another human. Just understand that becomes the most important thing. And then when they're grown, like even if you have to take a time out, doesn't mean you stop having inspiration. It doesn't mean that you're not using your experience in that moment with your kid to pull something out of the ether, which is, it's magic, right? When you create something, it's biology, but it's also magic when you create a child, I think. I didn't stop thinking about being creative, being a dad. Through my going through, I had a different path because then I started publishing rather than doing my own stuff.
After you had kids was when you started publishing?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I was publishing my own stuff, and I just was able to realize that I was better at being a publisher than I was being a writer. But then I also wrote for DC. When those opportunities popped up, it was like, oh, this is a real paycheck. I'm going to do this. And I was just being, I had the one kid at that point and starting out being a dad and being a professional writer at the same time. And I managed it. Did I do good? I don't know. Obviously, anybody that read the Justice League thinks differently. But I wrote with my son in my lap. I would get up in the middle of working and change a diaper because my wife was at work. So
were you a stay-at-home dad?
I worked at home.
So you were the point person for the kids.
Right. It's a stupid saying about it taking a village, but it's true. I mentioned earlier about how my parents were better grandparents than they were parents. And they were much better grandparents. And so my parents both contributed to the raising of my kids. Like I watched them and I took care of them. And then sometimes I handed them off to my mom. And this continued on to when they're going to school. I pick them up from school. I bring them over to my mom's house and she would watch them. That stuff's important. I think it's definitely something that we've gotten away from in terms of having everyone all in and contributing on something like that. It doesn't mean it has to be your parents. But you should have other people that can come in and contribute, and then you can contribute in their lives. And then it's like when you talk about that is the essence of community. And then part of that community can be a creative one as well. It's like I need this time, right, from 8 to 12 to Dan is droning into a microphone and I need to edit it. And the baby's crying, but you need to watch it for 2 hours so I can listen to someone else moaning for a little bit and then turn it into something good, and then I'll take the kid back. It's kinetic. It's ongoing. It never stops. It's life. Live it, right? Just fucking don't work. Like you came in with all that stuff that one day, all bunch of bullet points and stuff like that. There's no bullet points to life, man. You just live it. You just do it. It
is kind of the same conversation that, if you just linger in the fear.
If you overthink about the fear, if you let that's like, oh, if I have a child, that means I'm going to have to give up some other part of myself. That's not true.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to fucking manage a lot of different things. You're going to have a lot of balls in the air. And sometimes you're going to have to remember that one ball, if you drop it, it could die. But yeah, you can do it. You can do it. I know you can. You just have to decide whether you want to. Is that important to you? Do you feel like that's a big deal for you?
I always thought I wanted to. I just reached a point where I no longer understood if I really wanted to or if I had just understood that that's what women should want.
Should want.
Like, to be a mom.
To be a mom. Okay.
Like, did I envision myself being a mom because I liked the idea of it or because all the women I knew were moms? And in some way, if you don't have a kid, you're kind of like a failure as a woman.
That was a thing maybe back in the 80s. I think that was actually just starting to go away there. I think it's okay.
Yeah, well, here, that's not really a conversation. I grew up in kind of a conservative-ish town.
Where was this?
Norwich, Illinois.
Okay.
Very Catholic presence there.
All right. So women haven't given birth at 19.
A ton of people that I went to high school with have 2-year-olds now.
Yeah.
So when I came to this place, I couldn't decide if I wanted to have kids because I really couldn't get myself to believe in my creative life. I'll create kids if I can't create art, which is selfish. I understand.
I didn't say that.
Well, but I know that's the truth. Yeah. I know that
okay.
I was envisioning kids in my own image as something that I create and not as separate individual things. The same reason why I don't want to get a cat because I have an apartment and I would have the cat like the way that I would have an accessory, as a thing to entertain me and not as a living thing in my apartment.
Right.
It feels like the same thing. Can I show up? We've established, and I'm not being funny, I am egotistical.
No, I know that. Yeah. I mean, then I've used the word narcissist with you. And
I have with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's one of the few times I've tossed that word around and I didn't mean it 1,000% in the pejorative. That, but yeah.
It's a good thing to know about myself.
Listen, if you're a creative person and you don't have some sense of ego, then why are you trying to create?
Right.
I mean, obviously you want to create something but like the people the aw shucks folks, usually they don't do anything very interesting,
There's a lot of narrative now in creativity on the internet when people talk about it they say, I want to help other people. I heard that a lot when I was training to be a yoga teacher too. I want to help other people. I wanted to be a yoga teacher because I wanted everyone to look at me. I want to be an artist because I want everyone to look at me.
Okay.
Because I like to tell stories and I think that I'm interesting. And if I think I'm interesting, maybe you'll think I'm interesting, right?
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's flawed, and if I have a kid, I could be a good mom, but I could also be a nightmare mom. And I won't know until I am,
That's very true. That is very true. What will end up happening is that you will be a nightmare mom if you don't find a way to care about the other people around you.
I know. I just feel like a lot of the moms that I've been seen in my life just seemed really unhappy. Being a mom was the only thing they did. Their lives was laundry and cooking dinner. And that I find that really, at this point in my life, I find that really scary.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, that doesn't mean that's the way you're going to end up.
No, but
and
I'm sure nobody intends to end up.
Let's hang on a second. Let's start with, if that's your life, not you.
Yeah.
If that's someone's life and they're happy with it, kid cooking dinner, doing laundry, whatever, traditional mom rule, fine.
No, that's fine.
That's fine.
People want that.
People want that. People need that. For some people, that's a lot. In today's day and age, it can't be, because there's the whole idea that, there's going to be some dad somewhere working on a production line and he's going to be able to buy a house and 2 cars and support 3 kids and a dog and a cat and a wife and the whole bit. And then she's going to stay at home and just do that. I mean, it's just not possible. It's just not possible. You need both people have to be working. Both people have to be lockstep in terms of like where we're headed as a family. And I think that, ultimately it's like you were just saying, you wanted to be an artist because you want people to look at you. I mean,
yes, but
yeah,
there's more,
but there's more, but the more part, that's the more important part. Remember I was saying, talk to me when you need to do something. All I'm going to say is that ultimately, the only way you're going to get people to pay attention to you is by creating something of quality.
Right.
That was what will get people to pay attention to you. And when you have something that you need to say and it burns you inside and you do it, then hopefully that will resonate with people. And it's the same thing about being a parent.
Right.
You accept that responsibility, just jump into it 100%.
Right.
Like me, perfect example. I didn't think I could do it. I managed to do an okay job, I think. I was able to express myself in a way that I'm the opposite of you. I really don't want people to look at me. I find myself amazed that I care about what we're doing with this thing just because my natural tendency is like, I want to be the guy back here just doing the stuff, pulling the little levers and making it work.
But you were a writer first.
I was, but I didn't write because I wanted people to look at me. I wrote because I was inspired by the things that I read as a kid that got me to read, that made me a person. And I wanted to add to that. As I got, like, I wanted to write Superman. You know, when I was a kid, I wrote my own Superman stories. I couldn't draw. And I had a cousin that he kind of could draw, and then he sort of like, we'd just sit around and talk about superheroes and cartoons and all that. And when I got older, I was like, I want to write this stuff. And I want to write about things that are stupid in a lot of different ways. You know, this is like dumb. Oh, guy from Krypton. But it's like those things are very real to me, right? Yeah. I mean, there's a trailer for a new Superman movie coming out, and I fucking cried like a baby when Krypto the dog shows up.
Oh,
like, yeah, it was like, oh fuck, this movie's gonna be about the dog, isn't it? So yeah, you have to watch it. But that's fucking awesome. I wanted to be that kind of awesome. When I saw that trailer, I was just like, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be that kind of author that could write that kind of thing, that you could take something like a superhero and get some fucking dumb shit like me fucking bawling his eyes out at a CGI dog.
Right.
That's fucking incredible talent.
But to be an author, there's the inherent expectation of an audience. You have a relationship with an audience somewhere.
No. Write for yourself.
So you're writing to make yourself cry?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You have a kid, you're going to cry a lot.
Yeah.
There's childbirth, that's for sure. I've been through that. If it's true that you see, like a highlight reel of your life when you die, those moments, having the kids, the actual entering into the world, man, those are going to be right there. Mm-hmm. That's got to be the top two things. Family versus creativity, man, it's all the same thing. It's all, it's just a matter of, if you've got it, if you want to have a kid, you'll have a kid. If you want to be a good mom, you'll be a good mom. If you want to be a writer, you'll be a writer. There's just everything is an excuse. It's like you can't use one thing as an excuse not to do the other thing. You're just going to find it because it all comes from deep in here.
Have you seen people who used one as an excuse to avoid the other?
Yeah.
What happened?
They didn't do one or the other.
And?
I assume that they're happy. I assume, yeah. I think that people go through, it's like, okay, I can't have a kid because I want to be a writer, or I can't be a writer because I want to be a dad or a mom or whatever it might be. Or I can't, but it might be the same thing. It's like, oh, I don't have time to write because I need to work for a living. It's the same thing. Remember when you said I wrote newsletters? And I said, because that was writing, and I said, you could have written that book and written newsletters at the same time. You could have.
So what, it's about just choosing to do it?
It's about choosing to do it and then doing it right. But the only thing that is different in terms of like the family aspect of it is that if you bring a child into this world, that's a responsibility that you cannot like shuffle off to another time. That's like 100%. I'm dialed in. And that is going to be my top priority. And then the rest of it is just like going to have to work around it. But you can. It is possible. And you just have to go in that mindset. But you have to give that the seriousness it deserves. So don't say plop out a kid. I use that. We're just using that as a way of just sort of, of making light of the situation. But, I mean, you want to be looked at,
Yeah.
right?
I mean-
I think maybe, I don't think that you, I think part of your wanting to be looked at is that you want love in your life, right? And if you do the parenting thing right, those kids will love you forever.
Did you pursue creativity because you wanted love in your life?
No, I loved Superman.
You wanted Superman in your
I
life.
wanted more. I wanted the Superman I wasn't getting.
Cool. Thanks. That's all there's
Right?
to it.
That's all there is to it. I mean, now it's like, I know. So the answer to that is I don't create because I need love in my life. I have love in my life. You know, I feel it, even though it comes across really differently. You know, I create because I need to. Why am I here? Why am I here with you doing this right now? Taking a whole day out of my fucking week, which we've already established before we start. I have even less time now than I did 2 weeks ago. But here I am because I want to be, because this feels kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It feels like a natural progression to one's life to share with other people. And it isn't always like your kids at some point will just stop listening to you. They just will. You know, and then they'll come back, oh, you got cancer, you're going to die. Well, tell me everything. And I'm like, I'm done.
You're like, go to Spotify.
Go to Spotify and listen to me and Emily go on and on. So drone endlessly about things, but look at your ego in a different way, right? Look at, like, you don't literally need people to look at you. Well, maybe you do.
I don't.
I don't. Didn't think so.
Obviously,
Well,
I create because I love to.
Right. But I mean, when I first met you, right, had you said that, I would have just bought that at face value and said, yeah, you're right. You just want attention. Look at me, how cool I am. I don't think that of you anymore, but that's just because we sit here every Tuesday and go on and on, you know? And let's talk about, we've had our arc, right, in this thing, and your arc is one thing and very visible, and mine is different and maybe less noticeable. But I think that, and it relates, I think, slightly to the idea of family. It's like, you know, sometimes you just create your family, you know, you just out of whole cloth, even if it's not having a child. Mm-hmm. So we have this thing, and you and I, and at first it was just annoying. Not gonna lie. It was like, why am I even doing this? And now I care about it. And so it's like a creation that I can feel good about.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I care about you.
Yeah. Same here.